Okay, everybody, welcome back after a short break just now. Now we are moving on to our next item, which is the presentation from our second keynote presenter, Professor Masami Yoshida. And for these, I would like to call upon Dr. Kamaria, or fondly known as Dr. Q. And she messaged me just now. She said, "You owe me, you have to blanja me coffee or tea or whatever." Ladies and gentlemen, I know it's 12 o'clock afternoon in Malaysia, and all of you are grumbling in your stomach and it's fighting. There's a big war going on. Always have a snack. Bananas are the best answer. Thank you very much, Dr. Q. The screen is yours. No more the floor. The screen is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And it's noon now here in Malaysia. We have our professor Masami Yoshida from Japan. His major field is educational technology and educational for international development. He used to work for Faculty of Education, Toyama University, and did his studies regarding educational technology. Then he moved to National Institute of Multimedia Education and was involved in a project to study faculty development and distance education. He also had experience to contribute to Japan International Cooperation Agencies as a trainer expert in Thailand, Malaysia, Papua New Guinea, and recently he gave instruction to directors of educational TV in African, South American, and Asian countries at JICA Okinawa Training Center. During 2014, he had a chance of a sabbatical leave and had joined studies in Chulalongkorn University and Silpakorn University in Thailand. As his social contribution activities, he is an executive member of Association of Educational Information for International Communication. Now he teaches at Faculty of Education and Graduate School of Education and Graduate School of Humanities and Studies on Public Affairs at Chiba University. Okay, I call upon Professor Masami Yoshida to present. The screen is yours, Prof.
Wabarakatuh dan selamat sejahtera.
Hello everyone. I would like, first of all, to thank the organizer of this meeting for inviting me here today. My name is Yoshida. I'm working for the Faculty of Education, Chiba University, Japan. My major is educational technology. It is a great pleasure to have the opportunity to introduce my presentation. Title of my presentation is Adapting Data Different Analysis in Online Education. First, we had a better discussion about the environment of the education. Now, world is going to be flat and borderless because of the expanding ICT and online society. Also, in the learning environment. This expansion also possible to alter the human interaction. Then, technology-enhanced learning model that used to function and activity outside the classroom to achieve useful interaction for learning. And colony. The individual and and the colony system pay attention to their immediate neighbors. Their collective attentions produce the global behaviors, such as consensus in the colony between foraging and the colony size. Bird's view of the overall colony is both perceptually and conceptually impossible for individual ant. Group activity can develop the complex and the global rule, and higher intelligence without recognition by the members. This is called emergence. I would like to discuss changes in topologies of educational data emerging under different learning environments. As an ordinary educational study, a classroom student is frequently selected as a subject, and scores on exam and questionnaires are collected as individual data. These variables are also collected from other students. Similarly, the data for all classroom students are arranged based on the same variables, and continuously collected data are introduced into statistical analysis. In this process, two potential directions can be introduced for statistical analysis. One direction is unintentionally seeking a representative value for all students through the analysis. For example, the maximum, minimum, mean, and standard deviation values are used to understand the student grouped by the value of interest. Another direction is highlighting a variable. For example, the analysis of variance and the correlation values are used to take a note of variable. In this lesson environment, all classroom students are anchored on variables. In other words, all students in the study should cover all variable scores. They explains the same instruction or treatment during the lesson, and the evaluation is designed to relate to this. The topology of the collected data for analysis follows the Gaussian distribution. Data collection and fixed members and shared contents are fundamentally for the Gaussian distribution. However, recently, lesson management in classroom teaching and group learning is becoming common. In this learning environment, students have frequent chances to communicate with their peers. They may give advice or exchange messages. Unfortunately, these communication data are difficult to introduce as variables of the student-initiated data structure. Therefore, when we conduct a study in the classroom, we must have the same number of communication data from each student. However, communication emerges unevenly. As a measure, we introduce an academic study design in which communication is a dependent variable. For example, comparing the classroom techniques and group learning with achievement tests. Gaussian distribution. when we collecting the data in the classroom, the same attribute and the fixed number of the student, providing the instruction and the learning goal to them. Then data are formed. This kind of Gaussian distribution formula is including the sigma inside. And the topology is like this. We have analyzed the large number of classes and recognized as the standard statistical distribution. Exponential distribution. Collecting data in the learning environment, for example, the occurrence of the traffic accident, decay of radioactive material, visitor to the bank counter, death of a human, and machine failure. It represents the interval between random events. The exponential distribution, the formula like this, and the topology like this, is used to understand waiting time probability distribution. Next, power law distribution. Collecting data in the open learning environment. Activity in the social media and expand the connection with social user. Data of time members followed power law distribution. Formula is like this. The community is an unbounded network with no membership and an open invitation, such as like a social network, to anyone involved the different distribute of user. Many inactive users and a few highly active users, inactive one and highly active one, are involved. The appeared distribution is frequently called the long tail. Long tail meaning that this part. Long tail. Scale-free network. Difference between the power law and the Gaussian distribution. The number of the connecting tie follows the power law of the scale-free network. That means that no meaning to calculate the standard deviation. This means that this Gaussian distribution, we already know much about this formula, and this part. In the middle, we can see the average. Also, if we calculate in the sigma can limit some part of the distribution, like this. It's a characteristic of the Gaussian distribution. Also, in the formula, there's a sigma. It's a very important part. But the next, exponential distribution. If we calculate the average, maybe some kind of like this. Also, we can calculate the sigma plus sigma minus sigma, something like that. But in some case, this sigma is going to the minus area is also possible. Therefore, the sigma is not so reliable. We cannot see sigma inside the formula as well. Another important part is here. It connects to the 0. Okay? The next power law distribution. It's similar to the exponential, but in fact is different because this is not connect. Like a very huge number in the 0. Also the long tail. Extremely active user exist.
Also, if we calculate in the average, and the standard deviation will enlarge because of the active user. For example, the plus sigma minus sigma, like this. There's no meaning calculating the average and the sigma in this case. This is coming to the no meaning to calculate the standard deviation. Also, the scale invariant property has emerged, fractal structure. So have you ever heard the fractal? Fractal. Like this, fractal. So if we enlarge some small part, we can see the same style of the figure inside the fractal. That we call the scale-free, and kind of the scale-free. Scale invariant property has emerged. So this is called the fractal, like this. Maybe you have the experience to see this kind of the picture. If we enlarge some small part of the fractal, also we can see the same view in the fractal. That's a characteristic of the scale invariant property. In the formula of the power law, we can see the K. Also, there are many preceding the study inform about the K. In case of the population of the city, K is 1. Degree distribution of the wavelengths. When we draw the structure of the network under the power law, usually we use a graph. This is social graph. Graph is composed by the node and edge. Node is this circle. Usually, node meaning the user. Edge, this is edge, is tie. Usually, edge is a message. In case of the Gaussian distribution, a random connection exists. But in case of the power law, more, tie is more concentrated, and we can see the cluster. Also, we can see the part of the sparse. Okay. Then we can understand the important node. Important node meaning to connect a big cluster and another cluster. Also, between the cluster, there is some important node. We call the bridge. In this case, usually we calculate the average at the maximum. That means the core is very important, to collecting information. In other words, the people who have the many connection is very important. But in this case, in some cases, bridge is important. Connection is limited. But this person connecting some important clusters. Technology and transformed learning environment. This is a principle, seamless learning. Using mobile technology to enhance learning across the context. Learning in the classroom can contribute at home. Individual idea can be shared with colleagues online and the teacher follow-up. Student as a continuous learner. Incorporate the surroundings environment and support students in situated meaning making by providing the appropriate resources and tools. For example, the healthy eating project. Students collect a live log of eating, analyze using the smartphone application, and show their nutrition intake. Back in the classroom, they compare individual data and make the group presentation about the shared result. Next principle is personal inquiry learning. Process of the learning is like this. Students individually and collectively should take ownership of the inquiry process. To understand the new way of the learning and engage in the entire inquiry process. For example, the U project, wide web-based inquiry science environment. SMILE. Maybe some of you that already accessed this kind of the activity. Let me introduce a concrete case of the personal inquiry learning. This is U project. Also the next WISE project. This is in terms of the science. Next is SMILE project. AI-related pedagogies. AI meaning artificial intelligence, using computer to do tasks that usually require human intelligence. AI is not the same as the automatic computer service, It requires the human intelligence to recognize the findings of the AI. It's emerging even in our one of selection for mediated instruction. For example, the AI engine. We already know that these kind of the web services. System of personalized recommendation. Also, we already know that this recommendation services. Issues to use AI is bias. For example, some AI-powered recruitment system have the gender issue. Privacy. Automatic face recognition based on the database. And fake news. Prediction by AI can make the fake news. Let me introduce a concrete example of the AI-related service. The first, Siri. Sorry for the Japanese language. Siri is initiated by the Apple and providing the AI messaging service, assistance services to the user. Next is a face changer. Not so difficult, easy to understand, the face changing. And also this is the explanation of the recommendation system in the Netflix. Intelligent tutoring system. Monitor student activities, collect their exercise result, and provide advice regarding individual strengths and weakness. The ITS is applied in learning analytics and formative analytics, which challenge to collect the comprehensive learning activity of students and store these big data for analysis to provide a visualized result. Automation of predictive course management and advice to students. A remarkable future of AI lies in its predictive feedback to students, in which automated real-time advice on proper learning path or possible way of learning extract student lateral competencies. Application of technology as tools is a conventional way to use the media in the education. Making students think visible is one of the traditional, conventional principle to use the media. Social media tools, collaboration and communication regarding creating tasks and giving the feedback, such as Twitter and YouTube. Long-term learning communities, such as the real-time World War II or NASA social media, give students opportunity to provide a different time and space environment as well as developing the creativity, collaboration, communication, and sharing the resource. As other digital tools, Grammarly, you already know, maybe the academic writing analytics. Prism, also for the collaboration. CMAP for developing the concept map. Padlet and Flinger for collaboration and sharing resource. Go Formative for assessing students. And yes, Atmak Bolaswan is the name of the Achan Bolaswan, Thai famous professor. He introduced a available and convenient online tool for education in the social media. This is a concrete example to use a Padlet in the university class. Students submit their each information into the Padlet. It enables the student to discuss about the concrete issue together with the data. This is another example happening in the Thailand. During the conference, participants are allowed to contribute their personal information in the Padlet. Also, they exchange the picture and the video through the Padlet. Public resource in the cloud. Online crowdsourcing service allows students to access a resource, exchange idea with expert, combining the cloud wisdom with expert knowledge and commentary, such as Wikipedia. The method has enhanced citizen science for projects. For example, the iSpot, Enquire, Earth Echo programs. These methods also have the pros and cons. The teacher faces the difficult task of addressing these projects aimed to lesson objectives. The method has the beneficial function of involving the social environment in the classroom and gives students chances to exhibit the transformative learning. This is a web page of the iSpot. They provide a variety of the information and the data available for the learning. The next, this is a homepage of the Enquire. Also, they provide in the variety of the data based on the project. Next is the Earth Echo. They also have the database available for the teacher and the student, and they can access a variety of the real-based data. exponential random graph models. In other words, ARGM. It's not the principle of the education. This is the method of evaluating data, method of the calculation. This is followed by the exponential distribution. So, also to calculate the data, usually we use the StatNet package in R. In the educational environment, we can collect in some variable or indicator. Usually in our traditional statistical analysis, we already know the multiple regression analysis. There are many, like x1, x2, xn, many variables will form the y. Like this multiple regression analysis. And the algorithm have the sum, we can set the sum variable to calculate. Also, we need to define this kind of the parameter, parameter and normalizing the constant. For this purpose, unlike to the multiple regression analysis, algorithm use close to the similar way of the logistic regression. In other words, in this calculation, we use simulation of the data. The probability of the network G is given by sum of network statistics. That in this expression, like this. And also the weighting. Just as the regression. By parameter theta inside the exponential, where C is normalizing constant. Is C the normalizing constant? C. To use this calculation, we can understand the structure of the connection. For example, as a simple structure, the two-person structure, but also we can understand and calculate the triangle structure. For example, in this case, triangle, triangle, triangle. That means the two persons have the same friends, something like that. We can calculate that of the possibility. Emerging pedagogy, design thinking, is very famous in the D school in the Stanford University. Design meaning like a planning. So in the design thinking, there is no fixed objective at the beginning. At the beginning, the group of the people discuss about the objective based on the data. So if they developed some product, before define the objective of the product, they access the user and asking their advice, asking their opinion, asking their desire, and try to include these things into the planning. Students work in the group on the project, designing the project or product or project. Open-ended collection of the information and the collaboration are involved in their process. To support their design creation and problem solving. Then, this first part is very important. Also, this part is different from our traditional lesson designing. Learning through open data. The engagement of the student is enhanced by using the factual data and the real-world issues. Lesson focus on solving interrogated worldwide problem, real-world problem. For example, the civic role and skill, SDG and world issue, policy, governance, and accountability. Students to build the critical skills and directly engage with the impact debate with peers about the shared issue. Open data can be enable both local and global inquiry essential to learners. This method can cultivate the learner's motivational potential and provide the opportunity to discuss how they compare with other students. For example, like a public, many public agents, they disclose the many data, like a statistical data, also the, easy one is the stewardship. And also the most strict one is like a new laws, something like that. Also the people have the chance to access such kind of the data. Also on the other side, the people should have some civic role to understand the public data and, they use the data something for being good in the society. So this is like a learning through open data. This is a concrete example to use the public open data by the citizen. This is the homepage of the Tokyo Cosmopolitan, that means the Tokyo province. In our country, public health is managed by the rural government office. This means the Tokyo city government should have the responsibility about disseminating the COVID-19, something like that. This is a web page targeting on the COVID-19 developed by the Tokyo Cosmopolitan Government Office. But in fact, in the backside, many of the citizens contributed to develop this homepage. Also, the source code of the homepage was open to the citizen through the GitHub. Then, activity was expanded, not only the Tokyo, but also this is the Chiba Prefecture, my region. And also this is an example of the Hokkaido in the North region. So far, almost 100 rural government office using the same program. Also they contributed to update the coding. Many of the students, many of the technicians contributed. If the people have the competency to writing the code, they contributed to modify the code. Also the students, they contribute to improve the homepage to providing the suggestion as well. Next is the context-based learning. Students make sense of their experience based on the context. Use practical knowledge to build learning in specific area rather than acquiring the universal knowledge. Students learn about the context, and it can provide the student with experience of the viewing and the sampling real data. As a key element, time, place, people, and object. So it provides the opportunity to understand the context by providing the contextual information to the situation. This enables the student to develop the skills, interpreting the localized word, concept, and the data. Next is the cloud learning. Students engage in the scholarly communication with subject-related experts in the online cloud. For example, the Stack Exchange, Quora, people can communicate with experts in the various fields by inviting the expert and knowledgeable the participant to answer the questions. Students can explore the different way of addressing the problem. Collaborative online site help the international students improve their language vocabulary by encouraging the learners and the native speakers to submit words, definition, and pictures. For example, the Lingobee. So it looks like previously I introduced the public resource in the cloud. But in this case, focus is the resource. Focus is the resource. But also this is the focus is the public data, Next here, this is focus is the communication. These three principles use the same online service, but focus is different. Resource or public resource or communication, we need to know the difference of this principle. This is an example of the Stack Exchange. So that it's possible to communicate with the related expert. And also this is the example of the Quora. Also the possible to exchange the idea with the related expert. Final remarks. Learning community. Studies investigating organized behavior in education have noted the need to develop the multi-level understanding of individual behavior within the learning community. While students learn in the classroom, the collected holistic data that involve the data of the social user follows the power law distribution. Youth learning model cannot restrict the way of assessment. Like this. Even the student and the teacher located in the classroom, and also the learning in the classroom. When they access and the social media and the online, also the communicate with the social people. If the teacher focus on just only the environment, learning environment of the classroom, maybe the Gaussian distribution happen. But when we discussing about the connection and the structure in the social media or online, data will follow the exponential distribution. When we discuss the learning environment, like a big learning environment, social media and the online environment, collected data will follow the power law distribution. Based on our focus, used topology will change. That will be the difference of the learning environment. Is a summary. In this part is the principle of the pedagogy that I introduced. Also, this is regarding distribution. But in some principle, can be possible to appear the three different distributions based on the focus. If we focus the user, maybe the data will follow the Gaussian distribution. If we focus on the collaboration, data will follow the exponential. If we discuss about the online environment, data will follow the power law. So that's the importance of the understanding evaluation. Principle cannot define only the method of the evaluation. Designing learning environment is very important. Present education, no fixed curricula and the context. If we accept a no fixed curricula and the context, that we move to the need to discuss from the finding objective. So further, we use this kind of the system: plan, do, see, like AD. In the beginning, we define the target objective and the do, see. But recently, that I mentioned, upper side, this kind of the pedagogical method appeared a lot. For example, the see, plan, do style. For example, the design thinking, collecting the data of the user, something like that. Also the do, see, plan. For example, the action research. First, we must do first, and evaluate, and propose the next planning, something like that. PDS is not only the way of the educational design. So that we need to thinking about the study target. What's the target of your lesson? If your lesson targeting on the knowledge acquisition is okay, communication pattern, and the holistic social network view, based on the target, used distribution is different. They're learning under the same learning model. Discrete consideration should be given to selecting target indicator in the research. Designing the learning environment is essential to future instruction and assessment. Thank you very much for today. If you have any questions, feel free to take the contact through the research gate.
Thank you, Prof, for sharing your research and also your findings with the participants. There seems to be no questions posted by the participants, but I would like to know if you have anything extra to add on to your presentation.
Thank you very much, Chair. So I think it's like a strange, compared with the other presentation. But in this case, recently the use of the media, also the media environment is extremely important, especially under the COVID-19 that we need to provide in the online education to the student. But we didn't know so much about the learning environment. Usually, so far, we have the long time history to manage the education in the classroom. That only the limited environment. But recently, also that we have the many experience to use the media as a learning environment. We try to use the same evaluation method, even student running in the online environment. Also, the students have a lot of chance to communicate with a variety of the people. In that case, we must know how to evaluate their new learning environment. So that's why today I introduce a different topology because if we targeting on the social media, we must know how to collect the data, also how to evaluate the data as well. Okay.
Thank you very much, Prof. I'll pass the stage back to Mr. Sarah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Q. Thank you so much, Prof. Yoshida. Okay, there's only one question we would like to know, Prof. As you know, the challenges of e-learning or m-learning is really great. But Japan always experiences natural disasters such as earthquakes, and recently the contamination of the seabed because of a nuclear reactor leak. Students didn't go to school. Yes, exactly. So,
Oh,
how did
so the
you manage to do assessment, learning, and so forth? A little bit, a small insight to us.
thank you very much. So it's difficult to say that. For example, the school education, like elementary and the secondary, they try to establish the face-to-face continuously, even we have the disaster.
But how? You have a disaster, but you want to have face to face. Don't you think it's difficult?
Yes, that's why that we try the maximum effort by the support of the government. Even still now, many of the students in Japan, uh, also the school, try to collect the student, even under the disaster. They use some physical technique, like a morning, half student, afternoon, half student, something like that. Also, we use the media as a supplementary. But on the other side, in the university, we totally moved to the online. That's the difference of the recognition of the education. In case of the school education, knowledge acquisition is not only the target, they think. They need to provide some human assistance to the student. That is maybe based on our custom. Many of the parents think like this. Information in us is enough for them because they have the media, they have the internet connection, they have the many resources, not only the school but also some supplementary commercial training as well. So many of the parents ask a school to develop some kind of the humanized training to the student. On the other side, in case of the university, we moved to the online because the COVID is very dangerous. Many people are afraid about that. So that we switch to the online. But we had so far we had a limited experience to use our online, both school and the university. So the problem happened is student in the elementary, also the university, cannot manage their self-paced learning in the home. We didn't have so much chance and experience and training to provide them self-regulated learning and the learner autonomy. That is a very important concept of the distance education. So now we have the chance to manage such kind of the important, used to be the additional, but now is important competencies to manage their own learning. Okay.
That's great, doctor. It's totally opposite than what we do here, because here we have some states in Malaysia where we are prone to floods. We are prone to floods, especially during the monsoon season. For example, it starts around November, December. And because of that, many students don't go to school because schools are not open. And schools in Malaysia will be used as evacuation centers. So what you are saying is something quite new. Even though there's a natural disaster, still face-to-face learning is taking place in Japan. That is something we have to learn from you a lot. That is something
Yes.
we really love.
For example, the used to be we have the earthquake, big earthquake. We have the many evacuation center. In that time, also the school providing the facility for the evacuation center. At that time, we dispatched the many university students to assist the learning of the student, like this.
Okay.
Social function. We use the social function.
Okay, so that means it's not the teachers that came to teach, but the university students came to teach the students in the schools in Japan.
Yes, sir. If we encounter some disaster, the Faculty of Education, we dispatch a student to cover the elementary student in the evacuation centers, something like that.
Okay. And then the university will allow the students to go and teach to these places.
as a part of the voluntary school subject.
Voluntary.
We have the such kind of the compulsory school subject. Also, the faculty of student in the faculty of education, they also should have the such kind of the experience to support the student in the outside the campus.
Okay, that's great. That's great. It's really fantastic. I hope that all the education officers actually taking heed of what Professor Yoshida is saying here. It is something totally new because in our country, the moment there's a natural disaster, the students are not going to schools. Their movement is affected because of flood and so forth. And here it's so great because the university students are coming and conducting lessons for the students. It's really great. And everyone in the university goes straight to the online assessment situation. That's great. Thank you very much, Professor Yoshida, for your question. Dr. Kamaria, the screen is back to you.
Okay.
That's amazing because what Prof. Yoshida said is something very new. In a natural disaster, they have a face-to-face learning. That is awesome. In our country, when there's a natural disaster, students don't go to school. No lesson is conducted. Interesting. It's very interesting. You know, their lessons are never disrupted.
Okay. I thank Professor Masami Yoshida again for his very delightful and wonderful sharing of his research and also his findings and also his experience as an educator in his country. Mr. Sarah, I think it's time for us to take a break.
Definitely.
To go for lunch. Yeah. And we will be meeting again after lunch.
Yes, exactly. All right. Thank you very much to our moderator, Dr. Kamaria, and also Professor Yoshida. Thank you very much, Prof, for your time, valuable insights, and you have opened my eyes that face-to-face classes can even take place during natural disaster. There's something new. I think I better write a letter to our education minister to tell him about that, you know, because our students are always, lessons are disrupted whenever there's a natural disaster. Okay, and our climatic situation is also changing because of that. Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very much, Dr. Kamaria. And everybody, we will convene again at 2:30 p.m. after having our lunch break. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you very much to Prof. Yoshida again and Dr. Kamaria. Thank you. Back to you, Dr. Hafiz. Thank you.